Welcome back, y'all. Sports and Spirits. Back with some more sports and another spirit. I'm Steve.
I'm Josh.
Let's take care of some quick housekeeping right out of the gate. We are not very good at this. I'm not very good at this in any of the videos that I do. But number one, I want to make sure that you take the second to subscribe to the channel.
100%. Yeah.
And follow us on Instagram, TikTok, all the places that you can find social media stuff. We're there.
Yeah. We're on all of them. Consume it however you feel like you want to. But yeah, that subscribe really helps.
Yep. And don't forget to also like the video because that will boost us up out there in the algorithm. And we just want to keep growing this thing and having fun while we're doing it.
100%.
Speaking of that, since we are sports and spirits, we've got a spirit this week. We'll get into it more later, but we'll show you what it is now. And that's the Michter's 10-year rye. Just tried this for the first time here, probably a few weeks back.
Sure.
First time I've ever had it. It's an incredible rye.
All right.
So we'll try that later in the episode. But to start off this forecast for sports coming up this weekend, we're going to start with the NFL.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. So when you're seeing this podcast, you'll have Thursday night football. In the evening, you got the Steelers 4-1 going on the road against the Bengals.
Dang.
I think it's we're in a world where it's kind of crazy to say, but the Steelers are probably the current favorites to win their division.
Number one.
Yeah, I mean, you got
But we have seen upsets, so
we have seen upsets.
Nobody's safe.
Right, the Bengals, could shock people. You never know.
In this division, they're probably pretty safe.
Historically, Joe Flacco has beaten the Steelers pretty good.
Yeah.
And so him being the Bengals quarterback, it's very possible. Right. But with the banged up players in that division, the Steelers have a really good shot this year to make the playoffs. So that'll be interesting to watch on Thursday, and then we'll transition right into our Sunday football slate.
Here we go. We're back in London.
Back in London, third week in a row. So you're going to see the Rams take on the Jaguars. The Jags play a lot of international games just naturally because they're on the East Coast.
Makes more sense. Less jet lag.
100%. And compared to the Rams.
Right.
And so the interesting thing to note here on this one is there's a good probability, if not almost a lock, that Puka's out. Being that the Rams will be proceeding this next week on a bye. So the Rams could be without the best receiver on their roster, maybe in football. Yeah, Devontae Adams is the guy for me.
That's the one.
That's the one for me this week. You're going to see a lot of Jordan Whittington, too. You're going to see a lot of Tyler Higbee, Tutu Atwell, as well as Kyron Williams will have a big day on the ground against Jacksonville. I actually like the Jags in this game. I think the Rams, without Puka, really changes their whole offensive flow.
There you go.
And I think with the additional component of the additional jet lag that comes from coming from all the way over on the West Coast, I do like the chances for Jacksonville to get back in the win column this week.
Here's the big question. Mm-hmm. Is 3 straight London games too much for the players, and is it too much for the fans?
It's a good question. You'll have to let us know in the comments if you enjoy, getting up early on your Sundays and tuning into football at 8:30 in the morning here local time, or sometimes earlier in other areas.
Right. What is it for you guys out there?
Yeah. What time are you watching?
Is a full Sunday of football awesome to you, or is 8:30 too early in the morning?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know everybody's different. Everybody's viewpoint on it will be different. Some people are like, I just don't even get up for it. Some people are like, I'm up, I'm making breakfast, I'm not missing any football. So yeah, just let us know what you think in the comments. But I'm all for it. An opportunity to watch one game versus having like 7 at the same time because you can't watch them all.
True.
So I'm all for that.
Even with your like we've talked about before, the every other week doubleheader on Monday.
Correct.
That makes for a really packed Sunday, Monday.
100%.
But you get to watch them all.
Yeah.
Instead of having to have 17 screens on.
Exactly.
You can hit every game.
Exactly. So for everyone who's got one TV at home, let us know what you think on that one.
Exactly.
But so here we go. And then I think the game that could arguably be the most playoff affected game in the at least the NFC. You got the Vikes taking on the defending Super Bowl champ Eagles.
Let's go.
The Vikes are coming out of a bye. So the question is, who's going to be QB? Is it McCarthy ready to go?
Right.
Are they going to roll Carson Wentz back out against his former team? I love the plot line of that.
I do.
I
can
for
see
sure.
that one
I for
playing
sure
out
love
fun.
the plot line of that. And the Eagles, losing 2 in a row. And so I think the Vikes are catching the Eagles in a good time. They're really banged up. And I think this is a game that's going to be awesome to watch and definitely going to be one we're going to all be tuning into.
Right.
And then I guess Also on the docket in the AFC, a very, very, very important playoff seeding matchup. I think at the end of the year is going to be the Chargers hosting the Colts.
Yep.
I think both these teams, respectively, barring any additional injuries from what they've already had, are both playoff teams.
Right.
And I think when it comes down to it at the end of the season, these matchups against these marquee teams that, actually impact where your seeding is in the playoffs are so important.
How do you feel like the Colts defense is as far as like against the run?
Yeah.
Is it like a quiet like excellence to it, or is
Yeah, 100%. I think we've watched their offense just, shock some people this year, but their defense has played really, really good. Like almost like out of the ordinary good. Their rush defense top 5 in the NFL. So like they're shutting down opposing running backs, and it's making it tough to run the ball. So they're just forcing teams to throw, and they're creating turnovers. And that's how you win football games.
Yeah.
You gain extra possessions, shut down the run game, control the clock. And, with a running back like JT, that's what they've been doing.
right?
So
But then on the other side, do you think the Chargers have finally figured out how to close a game?
that's a great question. I think Justin Herbert has been at a point in his career where he's starting to, I think, lock these things in terms of, these clutch game moments. The concern for them right now is going to be, do they have enough in the running back room, and do they have enough, honestly, healthy offensive linemen to keep him upright? And I think that's the thing we'll have to see when they start playing teams that like the Colts and other teams that have good defenses. Are they going to fluster him back there? And that's going to be the question mark. I think he's an elite athlete, and I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. But when it comes to injuries, you can't control the things around you.
And even off what you just said, it's like, are the Colts even for real, or are they just beating up on weaker teams?
It's a great question. They play in a really soft division, and they've played the two teams that are really bad in their division, in my opinion, and gotten the win. So I think the Colts might be legit. I think Daniel Jones, if he doesn't turn the ball over, historically he's been a good quarterback.
Right.
His concern in the past is having a really bad offensive line and forcing him to either fumble or throw interceptions that cause negative plays for his team. If he just stays consistent the way he is, I think they have a legitimate shot to, especially win the division.
Yeah.
I don't know how confident I am on him at the moment at being a Super Bowl team.
Right. Division,
but,
sure, but past that, who knows?
And I mean, we got to remember Jonathan Taylor, although he's been in the league quite a few years, he's 26.
Right.
He's a 26-year-old running back going into the prime of his career, and he looks like he's ready to show the league that he's still like the top guy.
Yeah.
And so I think you got all these things going on, and you got a really, really good tight end.
Yep.
And Tyler Warren, we went into the season saying that Tyler Warren was going to be a guy to watch out for, because 2 years ago, when Daniel Jones was throwing to Evan Ingram had a top 3 fantasy tight end season.
Right.
So Tyler Warren's on pace to do the exact same thing.
Yep.
Because Daniel Jones is the quarterback. So you gotta think these things through in terms of looking at past experience in regards to where these guys have an impact in the game.
True that.
So yeah. And then what do you think about this one? You got Cowboys hosting the Commanders.
They need to rebound after last week's game.
Yeah,
Dallas does.
Dallas does. Yeah, losing a tough one on the road against Carolina. It's definitely one of those games that could be in that contention for a game of the week.
Right.
I have a feeling, depending on what happens with CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout for that going into the weekend. In terms of what his status might be for that game, you probably won't find out till about 90 minutes prior to game time. So have a plan one way or another. But this could be a very high scoring affair with both defenses, looking a little weaker than they have in years past.
So who wins the QB battle?
That's a great question. I mean, if you fantasy, you're taking them both,
Right.
But I think
because like you just said, defenses are looking weak on both sides, so it's like this is going to be a high scoring game potentially.
Yeah, and these are one of those that like I think Jaden Daniels has played so much big game football that in like the past with like a second year quarterback, you'd be like, oh, this is like the spotlight's too much for him.
Right.
I don't think he's that guy in terms of the spotlight being too much for him. I think he's the guy who can go in very calm, cool, collected, very poised. I think the Commanders get this one done.
Wow.
It's going to be interesting to see. Terry McLaurin's a question mark. If he comes back, I think for sure they got it.
Yeah.
I think having his elite RB wide receiver 1 back would be huge.
Yep.
But otherwise, big Debo game coming. I think big Debo game, especially with their weakness in the secondary. So I think that's one to watch out for, especially on Sunday.
Freaking love that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the one that I think we could see the most guys coming back from injury
Let's hope.
is hopefully on Sunday night.
Let's hope, just because it would make the game more interesting.
Yes, it would. The 49ers will play host to the Falcons.
Yep.
And on Sunday night, in a potential return of both Brock Purdy and George Kittle, and potentially you might see a little Ricky Pearsall back in there.
Come
So,
on.
I mean, that could be really huge. You know, them being a 4-2 team without some of their best players so far this year.
Right.
That would be really important for them to get right in terms of healthy and back to it, because the Falcons have historically been a really bad defense, at least over the last few years. They have a great young pass rush. They have a really good secondary. That defense stifled the Bills this past week.
Yep.
You know, Bills had 14 points. Talking about a team that, you know, was putting up 30 points a game,
Right.
scores 14. Atlanta's legit. You know, if they can put up enough points on offense, that defense has been really solid. So that'll be
Do
a
you
great
think they're
game.
going to actually make a legit playoff threat?
I'm not a huge Michael Penix guy.
Sure.
I don't feel as if he's my quarterback that can lead me to the promised land type of player. Just because you have to adapt so many things to the offense based on his abilities.
Right.
And so the concerning part on that is that when it comes playoff time, is he adaptable to make the plays to win?
Yep.
I don't think he has the elite quarterback upside like some of the other guys he might see in the playoffs.
Right.
You know, in terms of being the difference maker.
Yep.
He relies more upon the system and the guys around him,
Yep.
which can win football games, but when it comes playoff times, usually the best player on the field wins games.
Right.
And I don't think he's going to ever be that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But do they have a shot within their division? I think it's definitely between them and Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
You know, as the team to beat in that division.
So then back on the 49ers,
Yep.
on the offensive side,
100%.
does Purdy's return instantly fix the offense? Or is it you need a week to figure it out?
Right. That's a great question. They haven't been able to run the ball this year.
Right.
You know, the 49ers, I think McCaffrey has at most maybe 60 yards in a rush game.
Yep.
You know, and that's concerning because if you can't control the clock and you can't run the ball, then it puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
Yep.
And with the banged up receivers that they have had, that's not ideal,
Right.
you know, for winning football games, especially as we get into the season's getting going,
Yep.
middle of the year. I think that if some of his receivers around him get healthy, they could, you know, see a return to form of what they could be, you know, that kind of thing with Pearsall and Kittle. And I think Pearsall and Purdy had a really great connection in the offseason, you know, and so mix in George Kittle being one of the top 3 tight ends in football, that could really boost that passing offense. But it's going to be one of those that we don't know what that matchup's going to look like right now, and it could change all the way up till game time on Sunday night about who's playing and who's not.
Yep.
So the hardest part about that is you got to have a backup plan if something doesn't happen. Jake Tunges is a good guy, you know, in terms of the 49ers, a backup tight end to, you know, stash in case you're rolling with Kittle.
Yep.
You know, stuff like that. You got to be prepared one way or another.
Boom.
Yeah. And we're seeing a double header Monday night.
Let's go. Wait, didn't we just have it?
Yeah. So they're
2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row. So they're
Let's
saucing
go.
us another one.
Thanks, guys.
Which is awesome. So yeah, in the early game at 6:00, you got the Bucks going on the road, taking on the Lions.
Let's go.
And a kind of like a playoff type rematch type, you know, battle that, you know, we've seen in years past. It's been close games. I think this is going to be one where I see Detroit, you know, maybe correcting some errors they've had on offense, just with the shorthanded Bucks potentially on that Monday night game.
Yep.
I think Detroit's probably favored pretty heavily in this one. And then I think we'll see a big game from Amon-Ra, Jahmyr Gibbs, some of these guys that, you know, we expect in terms of fantasy production.
That means that our boy Baker's going to have pretty much a perfect game.
He's going to have to play perfect with guys around him who aren't perfect.
Right.
He's going to have to be the perfectly unperfect quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, and when it comes to the NFL, it's really tough to do. Luckily for him, the Lions are very, very banged up in the secondary.
Yep.
That does bode well for that. The problem is most of you guys probably don't know any of his receivers he's throwing to this week.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of no-namers.
Yeah.
And so we'll see what that looks like. Rashid White might have a big game out of the backfield for them, just a guy to eat up targets, but we'll see. And then following that, at the 9 p.m. slot, you're going to have the Seahawks hosting the Texans.
Ooh.
This is going to actually probably be a sneaky good game. I think you got, some quarterbacks that have been playing really well as of late with C.J. Stroud and Sam Darnold. You got arguably two of the best receivers in football in JSN and Nico Collins.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be one that'll be really awesome to watch. I think it'll be one of those that comes down to that field goal type at the end, very close. Both defenses are pretty solid in terms of the Texans being one of the top, in my opinion, in the league. The only concern I have is for the Seahawks. They're really, really banged up in the secondary. They were missing 3 out of their 4 starters this last week. So Jacksonville had a big day in the air, but they still got the win. That's all that matters.
We talked about JSN a lot in the last episode.
We did.
If you didn't catch it, check it out.
100%.
Recapped last weekend, but do you think he's kind of breaking out as kind of a fantasy stud? And do you think that he'll be able to stay there?
Yeah. I think JSN has established himself as an elite target volume machine. In terms of fantasy production, it's going to kind of ride on their success in regards to Seattle. But if he's going to continue to get anywhere between 8 to 12 targets a game, you can pretty much lock in 15 to 20 fantasy points.
Yeah.
And he has the ability to have the explosion plays that increase that even more. Just playing the role that he plays in the slot, in certain cover 2 defenses, he's just going to be open all the time. I think he's cemented himself as one of those elite level players in your S tier wide receiver spots, which he might be the only one there right now. He might be the only S tier in the league. And the A tier guys are guys like CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua, Justin Jefferson, who are all got question marks around him.
Yeah.
He's got a healthy quarterback that's got a great connection with them. He's healthy.
Right.
They're firing on all cylinders, and he's pretty dang good. So that's a guy, if you have him in fantasy, lock him in. He's an unsittable player, no matter the matchup.
So if the Sea Chickens are so banged up,
Right.
are they even still a legit contender for the NFC?
Yeah, I think so, because the concern with their secondary is that it's not long term. So these guys are not long term out. They're temporary outs. So if they can string together wins, I've always said that if you can win the games you're not supposed to, then you're gonna eventually win the games you're gonna. You know what I mean? Like, so if they can manage to just continue to stack together some wins, I like the Texans having an ability to, maybe sneak out a road victory here.
Right.
I think this is the Nico Collins masterclass game, if you ask me, especially with the lack of secondary that they might be in this game. Nico Collins could have over 100 yards, a couple tutties in this game. But is that going to be enough is the question to stop Seattle's offense, and that's what we don't know.
There you go.
But Texans D is good, so this going to be a good game to watch on Monday night.
Boom. There it is. Now, before we get any deeper into fantasy,
Sure.
let's talk a little bit about this Michter's 10-year rye really quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
These bad boys are hard to find. They're
they're not everywhere.
pretty rare. Now, if you're lucky and you're down in the Kentucky area, Louisville,
Sure.
and you like to wake up early in the morning and get in the line, you could probably have a chance of grabbing one of these or its counterpart, the 10-year bourbon.
Right.
But I was fortunate enough to snag this bad boy from the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. They had them there
Okay.
at the booth. And so I got one. Also got a barrel strength rye from there as well. Super excited to have tried this for the first time just a few weeks ago.
Sure.
Like I said, first time I've ever had it. Now, a lot of people say that Michter's ryes are bourbon drinkers' ryes.
Okay. And I've heard that as well.
Right. So this bad boy is coming in at a pretty subtle 92.8 proof. Again, it's 10 years aged in a barrel. Michter's knows how to do it. But yeah, if you're a bourbon drinker and you're looking to get into rye,
Yeah.
Michter's is kind of the way to go.
And what we mean by that and what he means by that is historically, when it comes to their profile, it has a lot of those bourbon overlay tones, notes that you're accustomed to.
Yep.
And it's in the rye profile.
Yep.
So it's very approachable, very easy to transition into that style, whereas some people maybe don't tend to enjoy the rye spice that you
Right.
expect.
And that's where, with these guys, their rye content or their rye amount that they use in their mash bill is lower than some other ones. Like it's a Kentucky rye. So those Kentucky ryes are generally about 51% rye and then corn and then malted barley. So that gives you less of that harsh rye spice that some people may be turned off by. And so that's why these guys are generally the ones that, if you're looking to get into rye, this is a nice segue from bourbon up into rye if you're looking to do that.
Sure. Maybe. Yeah. Exactly.
Ooh, yeah, that's beautiful. A lot of honey for me on the palate. Incredible. Not sure if you can hear it, but our brand new little dog is making a lot of noise because, well, it's getting close to lunchtime. So this guy's a little bit hungry. And here we are sipping on bourbon, rubbing it in his face.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy.
Well, rye.
Oh, sorry, you're right. It tastes so much like a bourbon. I thought it was a bourbon, but it's a rye.
Yeah, so being that it's that low proof, it's not going to be super spicy. There's still a little lingering spice on the back palate.
Yep.
It's got a lot of your richness in your mid palate that you'd expect from like a more traditional bourbon. Very good sip.
Yep.
You know, being that if you find this around, MSRP or right around there, it's very good pickup.
Yep.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's going to like shock you.
No.
But it is very good sipper.
There's an easier to find Sagamore 10-year rye that
Sure.
is probably, I would say, better than this one.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely say the complexity in the Sag 10 is significantly more in depth.
Yeah. And it has a higher rye content, but doesn't have the sharp edges that are like a poorly done rye would have.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah.
Let's get back to it.
Yeah, let's do it.
A little bit of fantasy.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Yeah, so this is going to be a big week. So your 2 bye week teams, you got Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson being the most prominent guys on those teams. You got Bills and Ravens. This is probably the week that if you wanted to see if there's an opportunity from one of your league mates to go get one of these 2 guys, it's the week.
Kind of a mid-season pivot time.
It's a mid-season pivot. Yeah, you're looking at after 6 weeks, most regular season fantasy leagues are 14, so you're right in that midweek. You got one of these guys could be on teams that are struggling.
Yep.
And, if you could somehow package a starter that's playing this week and maybe another guy for one of their guys, and, you have this guy for the postseason stretch, I mean, why not?
Also, don't necessarily hoard the elite players that are injured.
Right. 100%. It's tough because, like, if you're stashing a bunch of injured players, it's not giving you a lot of roster flexibility. But that begs the question, if you're a team that doesn't have a lot of injured players, would you be willing to take a risk on maybe trading for one of those elite players who are injured? That's going to be a discussion. I mean, you got guys like Puka Nacua who's injured, CeeDee Lamb who might be back this week. Now you got Emeka Buka injured. You got some of these elite players that are a little banged up. Mike Evans, if there's an opportunity given your roster team, if you're, let's say you're, I don't know, 4-2, 5-1 through 6 weeks, and you have so many bench players that like somebody in your league's like, I just need a running back this week.
Right.
I'll give you Mike Evans.
Yep.
Why not? I mean, because fantasy is all just, at the end of the day, unpredictable predictability.
Really is.
And so, like, when it comes to, who you're going to start on a given week basis, usually you have guys that you favor more than others, but why not take a shot on a guy that has historically been a 1,000-yard receiver,
Yep.
double-digit touchdowns in an offense that scores a lot of points,
right?
And he is coming off a hammy, but he could be the wide receiver 1 for Tampa for a couple weeks where there's no Emeka Buka, no Chris Godwin.
Yep.
Those can be big productions that could help you make a push in the regular season to get to the playoffs.
100%.
And you have to evaluate based on your team and your league what you need.
Make sure and focus on those upsides matchups and not just name value.
Yeah,
Pay attention. To who they're playing.
100%. Like we just saw this last week. Nobody over the course of the last 2 weeks would have even called Rico Dowdle a starter in fantasy football.
Yep.
But if you believed in the fact that he had a great matchup 2 weeks in a row and you locked him in your lineups, you probably had a great shot of winning.
Yep.
I think those are things that you have to actually consider when it comes to fantasy, is that if they're playing a team that's got a bad defense, it can be a below par runner or below par receiver that can have big games.
Yep.
Guys like Kendrick Bourne the last 2 weeks. He played with his former quarterback in New England.
Yep.
He had some phenomenal games. He's like the wide receiver 5 on San Francisco.
Yeah.
You have to play into the matchups and what's happening currently. That's the only way to, well, honestly, win your fantasy matchup.
Right.
So,
yeah, the thing of it is too is like, or here's a question maybe is like, which one of these must-start people would be, or could actually be a bust this week? Like, you have some must-start people, and if you haven't caught our shorts, make sure to catch those shorts because we're coming out with our must-starts or our must-plays and must-sits.
Yep.
Or must-starts, must-sits. So make sure you're watching for those. But this week, like, there could be some must-starts that could end up being a bust for you.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing with fantasy football is that you can't predict like the actual game flow.
Right.
And like when there's turnovers and things that result in changes within a game, a guy that might be a really great play could be end up being a bust.
Yep.
Which is really tough. Like in theory, like Devontae Adams going overseas playing Jacksonville should be a must start with no Puka Nacua, right?
Yep.
Well, we've seen over the last couple of weeks, those London games have seen some regression in terms of play.
Right.
You know, and what happens if they decide I'm going to put 2 guys on this guy and shut him down?
Boom.
And then, you know, you're looking at like a Tutu Atwell having 150 receiving yards.
Yep.
You know, like, so when we say these are must starts, we say it's tough to fathom sitting them because their matchups are so favorable.
Yep.
But like, there's still that possibility that something could happen in the game where they don't go off.
Right.
You know, like same with like Cortland Sutton. We've seen it this year. You know, he's had games where he's had really big ones and then absolutely nothing.
Yep.
I think this is his week to have another big one, but it also could happen where they find other ways to score.
Right.
You know, so that's the hardest part about fantasy football. At the end of the day, you can't predict what might happen in terms of the game flow. So, yeah.
There you have it.
Yeah.
Use the knowledge you want or don't.
Yeah.
But we've been right a lot.
We've been right a lot, or at least for the majority.
Really
so,
close.
yeah. So at least think about it anyway.
Right. That brings us to the feeder league.
Yeah. Let's talk some little
You know what
college
I've
football.
learned just scanning through my Rolodex of the few shows that we've done?
Yes.
Alabama's always at the top
They,
of our talking points, and I'm starting to wonder why.
yeah. Yeah. So for your viewers at home, yeah, Bama is my team. So we usually do cover them. Happens to be that for the last 4 weeks, they've played 4 teams ranked in the top 16.
Right.
So, you know, we might not necessarily cover them on weeks where they play some stinkers, but, you know, with this being another marquee SEC matchup against 11th ranked Tennessee,
Yep.
it's going to be one that everyone's talking about.
Exactly.
It's definitely going to. Bama's has the toughest schedule this year in college football.
And they've all been great games.
And they've been phenomenal. I mean, they've all been within like a field goal,
Yep.
you know, and then you had that Vandy game come down to like a late touchdown,
Yep.
you know. So Bama's pulled them out, but you never know. Tennessee's been a team that historically has given Bama some fits.
Right.
So it's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be one that in Tuscaloosa, I do favor Bama, you know, at home, but you know, watch out. The Vols are here. So it's going to be an interesting one. Now, this is the one that I'm calling the upset.
There we go.
We just saw a really, really bad game out of 5th ranked Ole Miss this past week.
Yeah.
And I think 9th ranked Georgia goes on and takes it down.
Continues that bulldozing.
Yeah, I think that, you know, Georgia being at home, the advantage is definitely on their side.
Right.
And when you play in that place, it's really tough.
Yeah.
You know, Georgia over the last 5 years has lost twice at home, both to Bama.
And the other thing, too, is like if your coaches were doing any type of good research on the previous game that they just played this last
100%.
weekend,
It's free script.
like a lot of things were exposed. So,
Yes. Old Miss might not necessarily be as legit as we once thought.
right.
And so Georgia, you know, they do have a good team. You know, they've played some tough games. They've lost, you know, and they should have lost another game as well. But you know, they're battling this year. They don't necessarily have the best roster that they have in years past that won national championships, but I think they might get this one done over to Ole Miss.
There it is.
So, all right. So the most talked about team in college football
Here we
in regards
go.
to where they're ranked. We got 13th ranked Notre Dame.
Or if you're from Europe, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. But yes, so they're a 2-loss team. The consensus had them ranked way higher than they should have when they started the season. So this is, I believe, an elevated ranking.
Dang.
I don't believe that Notre Dame is the 13th ranked team in the country. I think they're using too much consensus bias from what they had in regards to the preseason rankings.
Really?
And USC has been really good, and these guys always tend to play each other as like a rivalry game. This is a big test for Notre Dame.
Who is for real?
That's a great question, and we're gonna find out one way or another in this game. I think this is the one where it's like, is USC back? Are they not? Is Notre Dame legit like they think they are or not? I mean, either way, in my opinion, the loser of this game's out. I mean, the loser of this game's out of the playoff contention entirely. Yep. I mean, this is playoff altering matchup of the week right here.
You heard it here first. So that's a bold take.
It's a bold take, but no matter what, whoever loses this game is out of the playoff this year, and you can quote me on that now. So that'll be one to watch for sure. And then the one that I think, I can't believe we're talking about this team, but 15th ranked BYU.
Wow.
When you got a team that's on the cusp of being in that top 12, you got to cover them.
I never thought we'd hear that.
Yeah. Wow. They've won some really tough games this year. They got some guys that, they've built up they have an older roster in college football, which doesn't tend to happen. And so they host a 23rd ranked Utah, who's pretty solid. So this is more of a prove-it game for both teams. One of these teams, will have the ability at the end of the season to maybe be in contention to sneak into the playoffs, especially BYU. So this would be one to watch because it could alter that back stretch.
That's crazy.
So yeah, and that's kind of what I had in terms of like what to look out for on that Saturday college football slate.
There you go. If you're wondering, there it is.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about the MLB.
Yeah, let's talk some baseball. So
this thing's winding down.
Yeah, I mean, we're at the point mid-October. It's best time of year for baseball. We're in the middle of the ALCS and NLCS are underway.
Both league championship series are in full swing,
right?
You could say.
Yeah, and in terms of your schedule, when you're watching this here on Thursday, you're going to have seen that, we have tonight, you're going to have Game 3 of the Dodgers-Brewers series, and then you'll have Game 4 of the Seattle Mariner and Blue Jays series.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we will see tonight. And then what'll happen is that after Game 4, it'll be every other day with regards to travel days. So then there'll be games every other night. So one way or another, there's a good probability we see a conclusion to one, if not both of these series by the end of the weekend.
Yep.
It's tough to predict in terms of where we're at matchup wise and who to talk about and what to look out for. But the things I'm looking out for right now is who's pitching depth.
Yep.
It ends up being the factor. I think Seattle in the American League has got the better pitching staff over Toronto.
True.
And I do believe the Dodgers pitching is significantly better than the Brewers. And so
I have them taking the whole thing.
You have the who?
Dodgers.
And I do actually believe that we will see the Mariners take on the Dodgers in the World Series. That is my prediction. And I do think that the Dodgers pitching is the difference. So that is our prediction. We do have the Dodgers going back to back.
To the moon.
And so
they're America's team.
Right now, I got to believe it. I mean,
we talked about that in one of our first podcasts.
Yeah.
Just like the Cowboys are America's team.
Right.
The Dodgers are America's team.
Yeah. Definitely in the National League, if not the Yankees in the American.
Right.
But I think.
Which makes sense. West Coast, East Coast. Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah, it'll be one to watch out for.
I'm here for it all.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll cover it next week and see if there's still anything to talk about going into the World Series.
NHL continues to heat up. We've talked about this in our last episode. This pace of play is fast and fiery and through the roof. Again, it could just be because, hey, we just came off the summer and the season's right out and on its way. Yep. People are rested, ready to go, but it'd be interesting to see how long they can keep this speed up.
For sure. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think in terms of the home front for us, you're going to see the Wild play 3 times this weekend.
Oh, wow. Yeah, nice.
So we got them playing Friday night against the Capitals. And I will probably overemphasize this over the course of this season. I'm a big believer in supporting the guys around that have been around for a long time, and you got to enjoy the games against some of the greats. Yep. So we're going to play Alexander Ovechkin it could be potentially one of the last times we see him play. So you got to enjoy it while it lasts, because greats don't last forever, and sometimes we lose track of being in the moment. We don't appreciate it until it's gone, and then you're like, man, I really wish I would have watched more of him play.
Yeah.
So
because he's phenomenal.
Yeah, top 5 hockey player of all time. Yep. So I mean, enjoy it. You'll see us take on the Flyers on Saturday night, and then we go to Madison Square Garden and take on the Rangers on Monday.
Let's go.
So some great hockey. The Rangers are a very good team this year, so that'll be a team to watch out for on that side. But we will cover more in regards to as the season goes on,
Yeah.
when we establish like where we're at in the hockey season.
Because
Like,
everything right now is just so fresh, so new. We don't even know
2 or
who's-
3 games in for most
Exactly.
teams, so we don't know who's the legit. I do think that teams to throw out there. I do think the Colorado Avalanche,
Yep.
Dallas Stars, Florida Panthers. There's quite a few other ones out there that we'll talk about, but those are some of those dark horse, not necessarily dark horse, but expected good teams.
Yep.
So we'll cover more of those marquee matchups, especially as the season rolls on, when we haven't established, I guess, who's the better team to look out for,
Right.
as it gets going. So.
Yep.
But yeah, let's
Speaking of seasons firing up,
yeah, let's do it. This is
Let's go.
the NBA. Yeah,
this
so
guy's decked out
let's
and
go.
ready for NBA.
Let's go Wolves,
I'm pretty
baby.
sure you have season tickets too.
I do. Yeah, I'm a season ticket holder for the Wolves. So
Let's go.
Nothing better than basketball season around the corner. You're looking at the season opening not till October 21st.
What a bummer.
So we will actually be talking about that on next week's podcast, because that'll
Yep.
be Tuesday night.
Yep.
I believe. And so that'll be interesting to talk about, but you'll have the Thunder hosting the Rockets in the opener.
Let's
so
go.
KD's returning home to Oklahoma City. So
Wow.
the Thunder, make sure you tune in. They'll get, all the championship rings,
Yeah.
do the whole banner, everything. It'll be interesting to see who's available for the Thunder to start the season.
Oh, sure.
J-Dubs just had, some wrist surgery, so
Yep.
he could potentially be out, and, we'll see what happens. But, the MVP is going to be playing in that game, and usually that he tends to go off in the spotlight games. So it'll be interesting to see. But let's kind of just talk about a few things in regards to what we think the NBA is going to look like this year.
Let's freaking do that.
Yeah, let's just
Should we start with the East?
Yeah, let's talk about the East. I think the East is probably the most open that it's going to be, that it's been in a while.
Sure.
I think, with losing Jason Tatum,
Yep.
And losing Tyrese Haliburton with injuries at the
Playing
end of
feels
the
a
year.
little more level.
100%. I think those are the two favorites prior to those injuries going down. So,
Right.
I think the playing field's a little bit more level. I think the teams that might shock people in terms of actually being legit contenders this year,
Yep.
Detroit Pistons. Cade Cunningham's legit. They have a really good roster. I think this is the dark horse most improved player in the league this year. Jaden Ivey for
There we
Detroit.
go.
Didn't play a lot last year because he got hurt, and so I think he has the opportunity to really come on the scene with no Malik Beasley there.
Yep.
A lot of opportunity for him to score, and then also I think the Orlando Magic. I think with that, they made a trade for Desmond Bane in the offseason. They really, really wanted him for 3-point shooting.
Wow.
They were one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the league last year.
Yep.
And Desmond Bane, they gave up like 4 first-rounders, I think, to go get him from Memphis, and so pairing him with Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Jalen Suggs, you got a very good young core.
Boom.
They'll be a team to watch out for, because I think they're going to be one of those teams that's like winning a ton of games in the regular season. It's just, does that team translate to success in the postseason? So that'll be one to watch out for in terms of does that work for them?
So
But,
what is your prediction for the the conference finals here?
Sure, yeah. So my prediction as of now, barring any injuries that happen over the course of the next few weeks or
Yep.
whatever, I actually think the Knicks under Mike Brown will take on the Atlanta Hawks.
Whoa.
That-
Bold take.
That is my bold take. I do think that the Atlanta Hawks signed so many elite players around Trae Young this offseason.
Yeah.
They went out and signed Kristaps Porzingis. They went out and signed Luke Kennard, Neil Alexander Walker. They just improved their roster top to bottom. Jalen Johnson only played 45 games last year, and he's back healthy. And then you got arguably Defensive Player of the Year on their team, Dyson Daniels.
Yep.
If he takes another step, and you got Zachariah Rozier, which is the first-round pick, the number 1 overall pick from last year.
Yep.
And if that guy's going to come off the bench. You
Yep.
got a number 1 pick coming off the bench. That's how good that team is.
There you go.
If that team stays healthy, they have a chance to win the East.
So who's your early season MVP pick?
That's a tough one. I think the two favorites are always going to be talked about is going to be SGA
Yep.
and Nikola Jokic.
Sure.
But when it comes to preseason, it's always fun to just create some buzz, create
Yep.
some chatter. The dark horse, you got to think about Trae Young. Trae Young with that Atlanta team, if they explode onto the scene as being the best in the East.
Yep.
Usually when it comes to the resume, that's what they're looking for, is who has the best regular season record.
Sure.
In terms of that, and then who's the best player on that team.
Yeah.
That's basically how SGA won this last year.
Right.
Nikola Jokic was the best player in basketball, and he didn't win MVP. So The question is does Jokic get the respect he deserves this year or not?
Dang.
And if he doesn't, guys to watch out for. Victor Wembanyama. He had a phenomenal hot start to his, second year campaign.
Yep.
Fully healthy. They got a great roster. De'Aaron Fox behind them. You got some bunch of rookies. You got Stephen Castle. You got Dylan Harper. I mean, you got a bunch of good players.
Dang. Let's back it up.
Let's back it up.
Let's bring it back home.
Yeah, let's bring it back home, baby.
Let's talk about the West.
Let's talk about the West. Yeah, so let's talk about the West. Let's see. I think that
What are we feeling?
that the Spurs are going to stun some people this year.
Okay.
The Spurs are going to stun some people. I think we're at a point now where the post-Greg Popovich era, we're at this new era in San Antonio. They have
Miss that guy.
Yeah, me too. I mean, but now he's the team president. So, he's making a lot of the calls still.
Don't miss him too much then.
Don't miss them too much. But so the thing to watch out for them is, can these young guys develop into legit NBA role players?
Right.
And where do they find that niche? It's like, okay, this is the team we want. This is the starters. These are the bench. The rotation. But I think with the talent on that roster, with all those high picks, they could be a team to watch out for.
Yep.
I mean, prior to the Fred VanVleet injury, I think Houston was arguably a favorite in the West too. With going out and making that big splash move for KD. Anytime Kevin Durant's on your team, you're always going to be talked about.
Yep.
They call him the lethal shooter. Slim Reaper. You name it. He's
Slim Reaper.
The Slim Reaper.
Love that.
I mean, he's got nicknames up the wazoo, but he's one of the best power forward scorers of all time. And anytime he's on your team, you have a shot.
So what's your West?
Yeah,
Your West prediction?
You know what? I'm going with the rematch.
You are not.
I'm going with the last year's rematch.
Are you serious
I'm
right
gonna,
now?
I'm gonna go with the Thunder taking on the Wolves.
Holy cow!
I think
only because he wants more games. He paid for a lot of games. So
I
he wants
did.
more.
Yeah, why not? A few extra. I think, and I don't want to be too biased on this, but this is potentially a reason why Anthony Edwards could win the MVP this year.
Sure.
I think he has the ability to take his game to another level that most players don't have the actual physical components to do so.
Got it.
And so if he takes his game to another level behind a absolutely phenomenal season, I'm calling out a Naz Reid. They gave him a ton of money to stay in Minnesota. I think he might even integrate into a situation where he could start some games over Rudy Gobert given matchups. And if that's the case, that's our best field on the court is Naz Reid and Julius Randle out there together.
Yep.
And if we see those guys gel and do well, and we see a big jump for Rob Dillingham at the point guard position,
Yep.
Minnesota could be a dark horse. And if they somehow can manage to take on the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, who says they couldn't win it? You don't know. This could be the year that Timberwolves win it all. It's a bold take, but this is
a bold take.
This is a good opportunity.
That's a take that hasn't seen its finality here in the state.
No,
but it could be.
It could be.
Could be this year.
At the end of the day, in order to be the first in history, you got to do it. And so
there you go.
If they want to win it, they got to do it. I think they have arguably the best player in basketball. And it just is one of those things that
staying
healthy, and let's ride.
Boom.
So
there you have it.
Yeah.
This week's storylines are hitting in every sport.
100%. We're going to see some crazy ones, especially potentially a Carson Wentz versus the Eagles storyline in football. A lot of crazy ones with hockey and basketball around the corner.
Boom. NFL playoffs playoff pushes are starting. The college playoff races are tightening, and we've got the MLB postseason.
Yeah, I mean, nothing better than October baseball.
Yep.
So tune in. You got some great teams playing at the end of the year here. So
incredible. Thanks, y'all, so much for watching. Don't forget, again, to like the video, subscribe to the channel, go check us out on all the other social media platforms, and we'll see y'all in the next episode. Peace.